Um, Thank you. I think that this will be very useful for everyone. So now we will start with our program, which will be 90 minutes long. Before I give the floor to Mr. Georg Houben, who kindly accepted this invitation and will share some welcoming words, I would like to contextualize why we're here today. Why are we in the framework of a satellite event of the ceremony of the Covenant of Mayors, which happened this morning? And I would like to remind you what is scale. I'm sure that most of you know it by heart at this point, but still I think it's very important to just remind you a few words. So scale is, of course, an initiative that in partnership with the European Commission and with the CNIA aims to provide large scale and long-term support to the 18 Horizon 2020 Lighthouse Projects Group and the 120 Lighthouse and Followers cities that are part of this project. And Scale is also one of the platforms that supports the climate neutral and smart cities mission under the EU Green Deal, with the final goal and purpose of achieving 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. And the main goal of Scale is that of amplifying the results of these lighthouse projects by offering a very wide range of services. One of these is the city coordinators group that we're discussing today, and this is why we're here. So we are offering this large scale of services to facilitate the exchange between and among and across these 18 lighthouse projects, to make sure that the knowledge that was gathered in these projects is not lost, but actually it's valorized, and potentially the solutions that have been developed are replicated. In fact, replication is one of the main and final purpose and goal of Scale, to really, because of course, Lighthouse projects developed some of the most innovative integrated carbon neutral solutions in Europe. And this is why we're here. So now, yes, let me shortly present you the agenda for today. In a second, I will give the floor to Mr. Georg Houben, Smart City Expert and Policy Officer at DG Energy, and very close to Scale and the Smart City Marketplace. After that, we will follow with a presentation of the City Coordinators Group Roadmap that I would do myself. And here we will have a first moment for you to ask questions and get answered. I remind you that you can use the chat function to ask questions, or you can also raise your hand and speak. After that, we will all be witnessing a lively conversation that it will be informal with 3 guest Lighthouse City speakers. We will have a representative from one of the front runners projects that has handed already, Triangulum project. We will have the city of Eindhoven from the Netherlands with Mr. Henk Kok. After that, we will have also Mr. Roberto Nocerino representing the city of Milan and Sharing Cities project, and Mr. Ernesto Faubel representing the city of Valencia and Matchup project. So here, this will be a 30 minutes conversation among these 3 lighthouse cities who kindly accepted my invitation to this launch ceremony, also to get an idea of how the City Coordinators Group could work in the future. And after that, we will have a long session for you to ask them all of the possible questions that can raise in your mind, or even bring extra experiences and points of view. So now, yes, Georg, I leave you the floor, and I kindly ask you to stay in the 10 minutes. And thank you again for accepting this invitation.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. Welcome, everyone. It would be actually rather easy to say now within the 10 minutes, because Sophia has already delivered quite a few reasons why cities are important, why this group is important, and why this group is an excellent idea. But still, to give you a bit of a sort of bigger picture context here, the Green Deal was mentioned. The mission was mentioned, so we have already 2 sort of high-level ingredients to really foster the rollout of low carbon, climate neutrality, and such like in cities, with cities and for cities. And you see that cities are a central part, a central stakeholder group, if I may say so, for the rollout of actually literally any policy. Since if it happens in cities first. And you could, as I usually say, you can actually take the fact that 75% of people live in cities, and there you could already stop. So what is this group, makes this group so special? I think cities are really, and should be, and are also expected to be, from my humble point of view, to be in the driving seat of the process. But that comes, of course, with both a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of challenges. The challenges are in the direction of capacity building, for example. If you look into specifically smaller and medium-sized cities, I would estimate, since I'm also coming from a rather small town, just connected from my town actually to you guys. So, and actually there we have exactly that problem, that is capacity building. I would even bet that the biggest share of small and medium-sized cities do not know where to start and really lack that understanding and capacity and peers who show them the way. And they do also not have this kind of business attitude, because if cities are about to drive the process, then what also is needed is a business attitude, meaning that when you are about to launch your projects to fulfill whatever plan you have, then you need to speak to companies, to businesses, to banks to really make it work. So you need to sort of intelligently, smartly purchase what you need from the market. Yet the market is very vast and fractured. So this is really on the challenge end of things. And on the opportunities end of things, of course, you have a whole lot, which is making the city greener, more livable, having a true participation of citizens. So citizen engagement is also very, very important in that respect. And then if you think that a bit further, then you will soon see that although we have some very ambitious and high-level programs on EU level, the one ingredient which is missing, and it is missing for a reason, is financing. Financing is, of course, the big elephant in the room. We can do a whole lot of funding. You have been yourself taking part in funded projects, and therefore kind of spearheading a European movement with sustainable solutions in cities. But then once thinking about replication, upscaling, or transferring that knowledge and that expertise to another city, which is maybe just at the start of the process, you will see that a lot of financing will be needed. This is the case not only for the mission, this is the case for the EU Green Deal as such, but also for a number of other flagship initiatives. So I would really see this cities group as a forum for exchange on these specific issues. So really understanding how this could work in other contexts, in other cities, and ideally in smaller, medium-sized cities, and how you could potentially help to shape this and to bring this to life. And of course, I should mention at the very end of my short intervention that the Smart Cities Marketplace, for which I'm responsible, is there to help you with that. So there is a matchmaking process, and we currently do a lot of efforts to align the financial experience and expertise in the Scale Consortium with what's available under the Smart Cities Marketplace to really have a coherent, consistent approach, which is available to all cities, so specifically you, but then also other cities who might want to join the club and want to also become climate neutral. I stop here. I will stay in the background. If there's a question, I'm happy to answer that, and looking quite forward to our conversations today. Thank you very much, and congratulations for this excellent group. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Georg. I will now it's my time. Maybe Thibaut, you can unspotlight Georg. I will share my screen again. Give me a second. Now it's my time to present you the City Coordinators Group Roadmap. I remind you that you will still have time to ask Georg some question if you're interested also in how your city can be more involved in the smart city marketplace, and maybe you will have more questions about my presentation. So please use the chat for this, and also you can raise your hand after my presentation. So here again, as I said before, Scale is really aiming to amplify the results of the Lighthouse projects, and for that there was also a governance structure that was created before Scale was created, even to support the cities and to support the projects in this cross-pollination, this knowledge sharing, making sure that some of the solutions that were developed within the projects could be replicated. But what happened is that even if this very efficient, like the several task groups have been established to create this, there was still like a general problem of lack of cross-coordination and exchange at the very grassroots and local and regional level. Because if we check within the participants of the task groups forces, we see that the participation and the representation of cities, after all, it's not very high. And in the past, as I understand, there was already a first attempt to create this city coordinators group as really an opportunity to make sure that cities that were part of these 18 projects could be connected. But this sort of did not work out, mainly, as they told me, I was not there at that point, mainly because there was a lack of coordination of this group. So this group is basically the response to this, the answer to this need, to a need that was identified and presented by the cities themselves in the past years and in the past joint smart cities and community events, and also that was actually positioned within, like in the tender for Scale itself. And it's one of the requirements to support the cities, to make sure that the cities can get to know each other, are connected among each other, especially those cities that belong from different projects, and also to foster and boost the connection between the Lighthouse and the follower cities. So who is this city coordinators group addressing, and what is the main differentiating point between this group and all the other city networks that exist out there, including Energy City, cities that I belong to? So this group, it's mainly addressing the 100 Lighthouse and Fellow cities that are part of this Lighthouse Projects group. And this is the main differentiating point. It's really, this group will really target the main challenges and the main lessons learned that were gathered and collected through these projects, both from the projects that ended already and also to the still ongoing project. But still, we think that it's important to be aware that new initiatives that are in line with the Lighthouse program will be created in the upcoming years by the Commission, by the CNIA. And still, there are also other cities that are already very close to what is the Lighthouse program, and that are maybe part or somehow connected to some small city coordinators group already existent within the Lighthouse projects. For instance, I know that there is one in Atelier, there are many projects. So the idea is also to open a space for these cities that can participate as observer cities and therefore benefit from this group and the exchange in this group. So what is really the city coordinators group? This is really, it's an opportunity. As Georg says, that I think it's a really nice way of expressing it. It's a tuck shop for the cities that are here to gather and receive all of the information in one point. And it's an opportunity to expand each city's network, to find new project partners for new projects, to discover, to be in contact, to learn from innovative solutions that worked or did not work out in other projects, and to get mutual inspiration between the cities involved, and eventually also to take the chance to benefit from the large scale of these 120 cities that are already part of the Lighthouse projects, and to advocate for the city's needs towards the Commission and the European institutions, with the final goal of boosting the replication of the smart cities and community solutions. We see the city coordinators group this should really be like a supporting framework, like to offer logistic support for the cities to be connected, and a catalyzer of information all in one place, to make sure that both the cities can exchange among each other, both with Lighthouse and fellow cities from different projects, but also as an opportunity to bridge and to make sure that cities receive the information and of all the opportunities that are out there in the Lighthouse ecosystem and all the collateral programs that exist. For instance, like, of course, this group will work in partnership and in very strong cooperation with everything that is the already existent governance structure, therefore including the task groups, because this group is not a replication, it's not a new task group, it's the city coordinators group, and we're not expert. We won't select the participants for this group, but we will cooperate with the experts that are in the task group replication and in all the other task groups. For instance, we already established a possibility of partnership with the task group replication to make sure that we disseminate the knowledge that is gathered within the task group in the city coordinators group, and we will support their mission by promoting the exchange and knowledge sharing also among the follower cities. But this group will also support and make sure that cities are aware that other initiatives are there and other opportunities are open for them, including the Smart City Marketplace, for instance, as Georg just mentioned, the Covenant of Mayors, of course, and also other funding opportunities that will come out in the future, as you may have heard, also Net Zero Cities and other kind of opportunities that will be published in the future that we don't even know that will come. Of course, we will support, like we will be connected, and we will promote the scale initiatives, the other services that are available for the cities. For instance, the scale grant. So ideally in this group, there is the possibility that new partnerships will be created, and potentially some of these partnerships could be supported through the scale grant, which is one of the services of scale that will be launched in the beginning of 2022, and it's aimed at supporting the replication and the preparation action for replication of smart cities solutions that were developed in the Lighthouse projects. Also the roadshow, which is strongly connected to the city marketplace, therefore to how to do a matchmaking between the solutions to get them to the maturity to attract investments. And also, of course, with the call for experts to make sure that the right profiles that are really responding to the city's needs are identified to support the cities. And of course, eventually all of this knowledge, we will use this opportunity to make sure that all the needs that the cities will identify will want to point out are collected in recommendations that we can present to the Commission. So just to give you an idea, so this is the proposal that I'm presenting here. It's really the summary of like a round of interviews that I already started this summer with some of you, and with groups of project partners from Lighthouse projects, and also bilateral interviews with some of you. These are some of the projects that I interviewed, aimed at collecting your expectations towards this group. And also with the other initiatives that were already created, for instance, of course, with the TG replication, I already mentioned it, the scale roadshow and the call for experts. And basically at this moment, even if it was July and August, already 42 cities share their interest to join the city coordinators group, which is not bad, out of 120, but you're still welcome to do it if you haven't done it yet, and I will share the link in the chat in a second. So this is the summary of the request that a strong point and a very strong interest in getting more. Can you hear me? Because I can see that my connection
Yes, I think you are back.
For your, sorry?
You're back now, yeah.
Okay, sorry, where did I stop? I can start over.
Just a minute ago.
A minute ago. So, okay, so I can maybe repeat this part. I'm sorry for my connection. So I was saying that these are the main requests, the main expectations that I was able to collect through this round of interviews with the cities. And one of them was, of course, knowledge sharing, the importance of getting more information, but also like understanding what did not work out in other projects and in other cities, to use this experience also to grow at the local level. There was a very strong interest by most of you to use this group as an opportunity to do networking and partnership building for the establishment and the construction of new projects. And I think that this is, we will try to open a space for that. There was a general also suggestion, recommendation to work on specific topics, for instance, like to create more standardization, to have toolboxes to address specific needs, to work on like innovative procurement, like developing guidelines that can be used and by other cities that don't have access to them and that maybe have been already developed by some of the projects. There was this challenge that was mentioned about the importance of doing proper assessments of needs for the replication to make sure that this takes time and this is done properly, of course. And of course, there was a general interest in funding opportunities for the cities. So these requests, these expectations have been reflected in three main objectives for the city coordinators group. So the first one, it's knowledge sharing and exactly promoting this sharing of experiences. The second one, it's cooperation and partnership building, the idea of having a more practical experience to establish new partnerships. And the third one was advocacy, the possibility of using the large scale of the cities involved in this group to advocate for cities' needs towards the Commission, with the final goal, of course, of boosting the replication of some of the solutions that were developed within the projects. So we, at the same time, we reflected these objectives into a modus operandi. This modus operandi is also the response to what the cities asked us to do, because cities told us very clearly, we do not want to have to meet monthly, we cannot commit to that, we don't have the capacity. Cities committed, like at least the cities that I interviewed, told us that they would be willing to meet 2 to 4 times per year, not more. And ideally, it was there was a strong request to have also in-person meetings. So ideally, we will have a hybrid format. Some meetings will be held online. Some others will be will happen in person, and they will be merged and embedded in already existent events that will be identified together with the board of coordinators. And all of the structure of the city coordinators group should have like a participatory approach. So this proposal that I'm sharing here now, it's for sure the proposal to work and to go ahead for the next year at least. But we are open also to redesign it according to the city's needs and to what we will think that we will see together that it's needed. And we will see together if we will need a chair sitting in the city coordinators group representing this group in the board of coordinators, but all of these kind of decisions will be shared and taken together in the next months. For the moment, it was very important to kick it off to make sure that this would happen. So ideally, this group will meet for 3 meetings per year that are reflecting the 3 main objectives. So we will have a meeting more focusing on knowledge sharing, like for creating this space for sharing specific experiences, and we will decide together which are the topics that we want to focus on at the beginning. We will have a meeting that will be more practical, aimed at co-creation. For instance, cities will be able to bring pitch of new ideas, new projects, aimed to replicate some of the solutions and potentially we can use this to establish new consortia, new for partnership building, but we can also use this to develop guidelines that are identified as priority together, maybe with the support of experts from the expert group or of the other task groups, of course. And then we will have one meeting, which may become more encounter with the core group, to collect the needs of cities and draft recommendation documents, sort of in line with what the second paper was. And for this, we will for sure invite also the representatives from the other task groups. So all of this will be also accompanied by the rest, like a correct flow of information from Scale itself. Therefore, we will share like a newsletter gathering all of the opportunities that I mentioned before, the city, the roadshow, the call for experts, the Scale grant for sure, but also the Smart City Marketplace, what is happening and which kind of other webinars are available and offered by the, let's call it, Lighthouse program ecosystem. I will coordinate internally with the core chair of whoever will be with the task groups, and we will also use a drive folder, like a sort of online library and repository where we will be able to storage information like projects, reports, toolboxes, and the documents, important and useful documents that have already been developed by the other projects. So basically, this is how sort of the group will work in the future. We're still trying to identify when the first in-person meeting will happen. What we know for sure is that this group does not have a clear budget for the logistic support. Therefore, we will have to work in partnership with already existent events and maybe also with the final events and events of ongoing projects that we have to identify together in the, maybe, I don't know, launch there, maybe Iris project, maybe no, we will see. And ideally, these 3 events will repeat for the next 3 years. The next months, so from now until December, we will dedicate them to consult you and to collect information about the city's needs, what is really needed to, for instance, scale up your projects and your project solutions, and to make sure that also the call for experts can use some of these needs to draft the profiles that we're looking for the call for experts. So as you can see, it's all connected. So my kind invitation to you before I close my presentation is to help me to invite the cities that haven't registered to this group already, because this is really a nice opportunity for you to be there, and your time there, I think it will be well spent. And even if this will be a platform for you to be connected with these other cities, which you will see at least 3 times per year for the next 3 years, maybe this will be also the platform for you to start and continue bilateral cooperation with some of the cities that you might meet in these meetings. And also, I think that it could, like, we received suggestion from the board of coordinators about this, but we think that it could be very useful if we connect also the other cities networks that are already within the Lighthouse projects to the city coordinators group, to make sure that they all get the experience and the benefit from the information flow that we will disseminate with within the cities. So final information, Thibaut, you can copy and paste maybe this link in the chat. So for those cities that haven't done it yet, you can register to the city coordinators group by filling in a form online. It's very, very short and very easy. It won't take you more than 5 minutes. And here, before I let you the space for asking questions, here I would just like to share some questions that have been asked in the past. So one was regarding the target, what is what if who is the group targeting. So as I said, it's really the municipal representatives and representatives from the cities themselves. But in case in some specific local context, there was an intermediary stakeholder that was representing the city, we still accept them, of course, if they have the mandate from the city to be part in this group. Regarding communication, during the past months, I've been writing directly to the email addresses of the city coordinators directly, but in the future, I will also put in copy the projects coordinators to make sure that they also support me in disseminating this information within their consortia. And for the we are really working hard to identify a budget to support the travel expenses for cities from ended projects and for follower cities to attend the in-person meetings of the city coordinators group. We don't have the final yes yet, but we will hopefully have it soon. So this is something that we're really working on. And how much effort is requested? Well, it's really up to you. I mean, I think that if you can make the best out of this group and this opportunity, but ideally you should try to participate to these 3 meetings per year that will be announced in advance, of course. So I think that this is the end. This is also my email in case you don't have it and you wish to contact me directly, please do it. So I will stop sharing my screen and maybe give the floor to you if you have questions. Do we have questions, Thibault?
Yes, we do have one from Henk Kok. Does Scale provide a task force by the smart cities experts that can help on the spot cities which are in need? And is it possible to request this type of help?
So here, there are 2 things. Maybe we also have Hans Martin present here that can maybe also help us and jump in. There is a call for expert, which will be open very soon. We're now in the process of identifying the needs of the cities to make sure that the profiles that will be identified are responding to the real needs, local needs of the cities. And you are also, if you are an expert, you're also welcome to apply to this call for experts to make sure that you can also become an expert, of course, within our pool of experts. But what we will try to do, of course, is to coordinate with the expert pool of experts that we will have for specific needs that the city coordinators group will identify to make sure that there is the possibility to cooperate with them. Ideally, these experts are there to really support the cities in developing the maturity of their solutions and upscaling their solutions. Hans, Martin,
yes.
are you here? Would you like to say something?
Yeah, well, I think you've described our approach very well already. So we will have open calls on specific topics. These topics will be defined following requests that we receive from different sites. We have been discussing this with the city, with the board of coordinators. We also involved the different task groups that have been working across the Lighthouse projects. And it will certainly also involve the city coordinators group into this. And based on that and in coordination with EGNA and with GINEA, with our partners at the Commission side, we will then draft a roadmap for the calls. Calls will open. We will have one very soon on digitization in cities, and there we will invite experts who feel qualified for the task to apply for short-term mission working on specific challenges. In addition to that, we will also have a peer-to-peer learning format. I think that's particularly interesting for city stakeholders. So we will send experts on, I would say, short-term missions, on ad hoc missions to cities, helping you to solve challenges that you might face on for example, related to scale replication of solutions, related to financing, related to other issues you might be struggling with. And this is at the moment also in preparation. Yeah, we are working on the formats, also in close collaboration with Energy Cities and with the Covenant of Mayors. And you will hear about this very soon.
Thank you very much, Hans Martin. Do we have any other question? You are also invited to raise your hand if you wish to ask more questions. Otherwise, we can continue with our program. Okay, I think we can go on. So now it's the time for the second part of our meeting today. So we will have, as I introduced before, the representatives from 3 lighthouse cities, Milan, Valencia, and Eindhoven, which I named in the opposite order as I should have. So please, Thibaut, help me to spotlight them. So we have one, if you can, hello, we have Ernesto, we have Roberto. Okay, so now we can, so this, I hope it will work well, it will work out well. I will ask you the same question and ask you to reply very shortly, and then we will continue the conversation together. So my question for you, I will maybe address it first to Henk, and then to Roberto, and then to Ernesto. My question is, with an eye towards the process of transitioning to a climate neutral city, which are the top 5 learning points from your Lighthouse project? I don't know, Henk, would you like to start? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I've unmuted myself. I'll give you 2. I think that we learned during the 5 years of Triangulum that cities by itself, by the nature of what a city is, what kind of organization it is not the best partner to drive innovations forward in a sense that it implements them. It's very good when a city enables innovations, but to put your feet in the mud and really experiment and implement it yourself via your staff, that I don't think is a very good role for a city. That's one. I also learned, and we learned in the city by Triangulum, that technical solutions and implementing them in an experiment is one, but realization, monitoring, evaluation during experimentation, and taking these up in a regular work process of a city is 2. And what we found out is that we thought that after we carefully looked back on lessons learned after 5 years of Triangulum, there was not enough attention, means, and also not enough exchange of knowledge on that last aspect, meaning that it was too much essence being put on the impact and not enough on what we called process learning.
Thank you a lot, Henk. Do you have other things that you wanted to share, or can I?
No, well, I think I can, if people have more questions to follow up, I can
continue.
Give you more examples, but I leave the floor to the others. Okay. So we get a more broad picture, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Let's hear also what Ernesto and Roberto think about it. and then let's try to exchange. So Roberto, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Sophia, and thank you for inviting me to this event. Can you hear me? Better now, I guess. Yeah, 5 lessons that we have learned during these 6 years of sharing cities. It was quite a long journey. The first one is what I call don't do always by your own, but let private sector to share. So it's related to the importance of public-private partnerships. So the role of private sector in providing services and technology to the city that can really fit the needs of the city. The second lesson, and then maybe we can try to have a dialogue on this. The second one is that technology is important. Technology is the focus of our innovation project and actually helps a lot, but alone is not enough. Often is not, the issue is not to find the right technology, but it's to find the right way for rolling out and providing services that are effective to citizens' need. The third one is that co-design can be helpful in this regard, so to find the right way for addressing these needs, but co-design can be helpful but cannot be a mantra. So sometimes we make a lot of noise around this word, co-designing everything, but sometimes it's more engagement process than co-design. And it's important to use co-design in the proper way, also for not raising up false expectation. The fourth lessons is related to behavioral change. So the fact that behavioral change, it's a complex process and it's strong policies and difficult choices. So it's necessary to put on the ground this kind of actions for creating a real and tangible change in the behavior of us as citizens. And the fifth one is that cities are complex systems, so one-fits-all solutions, unfortunately, do not exist. So what we have to do as civil servants is to identify which is the right solution for our cities and to tailor them to the local context. So these are my 5 tips, and then maybe we can discuss some of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Roberto. Ernesto, let's hear yours. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. First, thank you for inviting the City of Valencia to participate in this amazing event. So if I would have to identify different lessons, I could talk at different levels. First, externally, the importance and relevance of networking with partners and with different projects. And in this line, I think that the city's task group could help to the future projects and projects that are younger than us. We are in the 4th year of the project, and we will have 6. So with this exchange of lessons learned and so on, we could get really useful information, and this city task group will be, I hope, really helpful for all of us. If we would talk at a different level, for example, at the level of replication with other cities, in our case, we are trying and we have devoted quite a lot of efforts so as to engage the followers, because sometimes they find these projects like the Lighthouse projects sometimes very time consuming. They are requiring some efforts for making deliverables, attending to meetings, and the outcomes sometimes are not very clear. So in our case, we are trying to improve, to smoothen this transfer of knowledge from Lighthouse to followers. In this case, we are carrying out some actions such as study tours, small study tours from followers to Lighthouse. In terms of in the own city, we would talk about upscaling. It's necessary to create alliances with technical partners, and in this case, in the line of my previous colleague, For example, Roberto has mentioned that the private-public partnership is really important for that. Fourth could be more internal, at internal level, because sometimes we forget some previous works, because sometimes we don't engage and have the agreement from different departments so as to join some different projects, and sometimes they suddenly notice that they are involved in actions that they didn't participate in the beginning. So we have had some examples of this. It could be obvious that the engagement of the department should be from the beginning, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And finally, for example, as we have noticed that sometimes the tenders in the municipalities are a barrier and are blocking the progress of the projects. Sometimes it could be allocating the budget for actions that could be externalized into partners could be better than carrying out the municipalities the tenders. But we could discuss about this in the following minutes.
Thank you, Ernesto, and thanks to all of you. I can see already some points, some common points among what you just said. And the first point that was shared by most of you is that, like, regarding innovation, the fact that the city itself cannot be the real implementer of innovation, but rather the enabler of innovation. And I wanted to understand, maybe, can you give us more examples, and also what are the challenges that you face to create this ground within the city municipality to be an enabler of innovation? Who wants to start? Go, Henk.
I have 3 elements to add to that. I think what we did in the very beginning of 2015 or end of 2015, when we signed our contract, and in the beginning of 2016, we immediately created a specific task force within the partners, which are 5. We're 5 in Triangulum in Eindhoven. And we, as a city, chaired the group of partners to bring data use in correspondence with the Eindhoven data principles, who were partly technical and ethical, and also the just launched GDPR for all the 16 activities, deliverables that we had to fulfill over the 5-year period. And that was very important, because we foresaw that if we wouldn't do that, everybody would start on his own and we would end up in some sort of a mess. And we also wanted, as a city, to act on 2 elements. We really liked to, as a local government, enforcing a playing field which would live up to the standards that we at that moment foresaw that would be important. And also we try to balance the common interest for all of us, meaning that there wouldn't be any situation created where smart technologies would gather information that would not bring the real assets, the real needs that we were serving the people for, as Roberto was telling us so rightly about, providing solutions for citizens, that there wouldn't be too much extras which were unguided and would then be disturbing in a later phase, because they came to light and then the experiment would be in a disqualified position. And that worked very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Henk. Roberto, do you want to share something?
Sure. As you were mentioning, I see that the role of local public administration in innovative projects is better described by the word enabler. So actor creating the condition for let innovation happening instead of implementer. Despite the fact of obviously that innovation projects are fundamental for improving also internal processes of the public administration. If we talk about sharing cities, our public-private partnership started from the very beginning, since that we, as a municipality of Milan, selected the local partnership with a public call, asking to our local partners to provide solutions that fitted the smart cities and communities call. So we had a wide partnership, if we talk about Milan, with 17 partners among public and private companies, universities, research centers, NGO, and so on and so forth. So obviously we used these competencies and knowledges and capacity in putting on the ground effective services during this 6th year. Just to make a very tangible example of what I say, what I mean when I say that a city is better an enabler than one that implements solution. I could make the example of car sharing. At the very beginning of car sharing history, the municipality of Milan decided to provide a service managed by the municipality itself. And these services, even also for technological reasons, but also because the service was not very well designed, was not so effective. What happened is that instead of implementing municipality-owned service, Milan has set the playground in terms of requirements of this shared service that has to be provided in our territory, allowing the providers to offer their vehicle sharing services. So what happens in the last 10 years is that thanks to this approach, now we have several different vehicle sharing services, including 5 car sharing with more than 2,000 cars available, and 20% of them are electric. 3 bike sharing schemes with more than 15,000 bikes and e-bikes. 7 kick scooter sharing and 5 scooter sharing services. And
wow.
Just only 1 bike sharing scheme is directly managed and provided by the municipality. All the rest are provided by private operators that know how to provide the service, know the rules and the requirements for providing services. I think this is definitely a success story in this regard.
This is amazing. Thank you, Roberto. But can I, before I give the floor to Ernesto, just to understand, so in this case, like the municipality is not paying these providers. It's just like opening this space for the private sector to jump in and fill this gap. And this is also somehow a way of saving resources for the municipality, or am I getting it wrong?
No, I share completely the approach that my colleague have mentioned, and you are in a way proposing. So we should act as enabler. Sometimes we act as barriers that have to be overcome. And for example, in our case, we have some examples of this. First, before explaining you a concrete example, well, we are trying to change in a way the approach, the role of the municipality, because now we are acting as an enabler, creating spaces such as sandboxes, city labs, and so on. And well, with the innovative procurement, maybe we could, in a way, change this role. We are involved at this moment in a process of putting on the table of the municipality on the way of work in our municipality the innovative procurement, and maybe this could change slightly. And in terms of specific examples, we in Matchup have quite a good example in terms of everything replication, upscaling, and so on. That is the humble lamppost. Humble lamppost. In this case, we are using the infrastructure of public lighting for extending the network of charging points. Up to now, to tell you the truth, we haven't a good infrastructure for that because it was quite expensive to deploy an extensive network of charging points. And with this pilot, in which we have worked together with different stakeholders, with the providers of technology, the providers of the management platform, the supplier of electricity, all of them are working together, sit on the same table, and using the infrastructure that we have in the municipality, we are letting the network of charging point be expanded with a low cost for each charging point. For example, as an estimation, for deploying a fast charging point standalone, it could be 50,000 euros. And with this approach, we are approximately per year 2,000. So the numbers are quite amazing because the difference and because of the possibility of using the previous infrastructure. No civil works are required and so on. And the possibilities of replication are huge. And in this case, in fact, we are expanding the network thanks to this pilot in Matchup in the city.
Thank you, Ernesto, and also thank you for sharing this successful story. But what in fact did not work out of what you were foreseeing in your project? What created frustration in your project? Do you have something that you said, no, this does not work, it's not feasible, it's an expectation that the project set up, but then it does not work? Do you have an example of this?
Well, I also have one failure. In my first intervention, when we have highlighted the different lessons learned from involving the departments, it's a kind of anecdotic issue, but we have a pilot for getting energy from the sewerage, from the infrastructure of sewerage, and in the first meeting with the water management department, they told us, but who have you checked this with before? Well, we had different meetings with that person. Well, he's going to be retired in 1 month, and you haven't checked with the right persons. Well, in this case, fortunately for me, I wasn't in these previous meetings, but at the end of the day, the department was involved from the beginning, and they were reluctant to deploy this action because they told us, well, we have previous experiences in blocking of wet towels in the sewerage infrastructure, and do you imagine that neighborhood flooded because of your project? So then finally we have to cancel this action, and it's an example of failure.
Mm-hmm. Henk or Roberto, do you have similar experiences, or do you have suggestions to share of how to improve the situation of interdepartment communication within the municipality? Maybe you have already something that is working in your...
Okay. In terms of breaking the silos of a public administration department, it's always a challenge. And what happens is that our department has to deal with day-to-day activities, and so they are, let's say, not so interested, or they cannot also take charge of innovation projects. So what it's important, but it's something very naive, but what is important is to involve different departments with the competencies on a specific specific topic from the very beginning, ideally during the draft of a proposal. And this is, from my experience, this is what can make really the difference in terms of capacity of delivering something. And another aspect that can help is to work with the departments, understanding which are their priorities when you have to set the actions, and trying to understand which of these priorities fit with the request of the call. And again, if you identify something that is among the goals and the priorities of a specific department, for example, transport and mobility department, they will support the action during the whole project duration. So we, as Smart City unit, we are cross-cutting the unit in the municipality of Milan, and we try to do this sometimes with success, sometimes with less success. And just if I have to mention something, I don't want to say that it's a failure, but something that didn't wrong is the installment, is the setting of solar panels. There was one of the action of one of the measure of our project. So we started this process at the very beginning of the project, so in 2016, and we didn't succeed in finding a building where to install these solar panels, even though we were offering solar panels for free. So sometimes something that it's it's a technology, you don't have to do anything that will bring benefits. It's not enough for let's say, succeeding in implementing something. And we tried with the mass retail market. We tried with the provider of the meals of Milan municipality schools. We tried with private companies, and we failed. And something because we were offering something that was not interesting for our target. So it happens also in this kind of project.
Thank you, Roberto. And maybe just to jump in, we just discussed about innovation. So there was another common point that drew my attention about like a behavioral change, and also the time, as also Henk shared about the process, how much time it takes to change the behavior at the local level. Do you want to share some more experience about that? Maybe Roberto, you want to continue, or Henk?
I can say something about it. And coming back to what we just heard from Roberto and Ernesto, we had a similar situation in which I picture you what was at stake. We had, from the neighborhood where we would implement a smart LED lighting solution, the request to have a walking route which was perfectly used during daytime around a pond, 400 meters. But when it became a little bit darker in the evenings in autumn and winter, people were afraid to walk there. So they requested, can it be lighted with LED lighting in such a way that it will not use too much energy. And that's when we started to co-design with schools and neighborhood groups, sport groups, that it would be nice to combine that with LED lighting within the pavement, lighting up at 3 speeds, 6, 12, and 18 kilometers per hour. You could follow the yellow, the red, or the green lights. And if you did that, you knew exactly you were running 18, 12, or walking 6 kilometers per hour. It was installed. It was a success. The neighborhood was happy with it. The LED lighting functioned. The LED lighting in the pavement, however, was so new that when it had to be handed over from the first implementation to the department in the city that takes care of maintenance and parks, they said, well, we never were consulted in the first place. And that was a big mistake, because that they did have this position that they said, well, if you did not consult it, you now throw it over the wall and we have to take care of it. But we have no means for it. We didn't ask for it. And there you see this dilemma of when you write a proposal, you have to write down something that appeals to the European Union and which is in line with what you know from what citizens have requested. But to consult from A to Z in the municipality is just too much. Because if we would have gone to them in the first place, they would have said, no, we don't need that. We've never done that, because that's not their mindset. It were the people that were working with citizens, schools, and sport clubs that came up with this design. And what they failed to do was involve maintenance people that had to take over after they were gone and the installation was installed. But we only saw that from the project when it was too late. And it's very difficult to repair that. So, which made me think that if you put up front money to experiment, it would be good that you receive an extra if you implement not only the experimental thing, but you also make sure that you embed that in the process of whoever takes responsibility afterwards. And if the European Union would give you a sort of reward for that, then you also have an intention to make sure that you not only experiment and put it in place, but make sure that it will work afterwards. And that's only about the first experiment. Now, when it comes to the second experiment, so replicating within your city, I'm not talking about replication and scale up to other cities, because that's a whole different story. But within the city, that's difficult enough. Then you have also some minds to change. And that learning, that process learning, and finding your ways within these silos of resistance sometimes is a very difficult process. And that's often forgotten in such a complex organization, like Roberto was saying.
Absolutely. Thank you, Henk. And maybe Ernesto, go.
Yeah, because to tell you the truth, I have felt absolutely identified what was about Henk was explaining. So I have felt exactly the same. This feeling of meeting with the different departments and we didn't know, and we need the money for this. What is going to happen next? Generally speaking, when we discuss about these things in the municipality, sometimes or initially the departments are normally reluctant to be involved in projects like this, because sometimes they see these projects as, well, they are innovation projects, they are not ours, and in fact they are their projects. So engaging them from the beginning and obtaining outcomes, because sometimes they think, well, what incentives do we have to devote time of our people from my department to your project? It's not our project, it's your project, in fact. And sometimes letting them know this is very relevant. So they usually think, well, apart from all the things that I have to do, imagine that I have to do your things, your request. I have to attend your emails. So it's quite hard to deal with this issue, at least, to be honest, in my municipality.
Thank you, Ernesto. And yeah, Henk, do you want to react?
Can I add some small element? Because you might think that the departments that take care of usual business in the city, like the maintenance people, are not interested and are not keen on making innovations. But when, as a project coordinator of a smart city project, I really dove into that, although I thought it is not my task, it's the task of the people that have installed it in the first place to make sure that it is being maintained afterwards. But when I dove into it because I was curious, and I sat down with the people that were so reluctant to take it up, they, for example, had come up with a very innovative solution, not requested by anyone, but just by feeling frustrated. And it was about a fountain in the city, a big fountain when you enter the city of Eindhoven. It brings up the water 10 meters, 15 meters into the air. And when there is a strong wind, what happened to the fountain? All of the water left the fountain because it didn't fall back all. And sometimes the fountain became dry. And these guys were cold, and then they had to fill it up with water again. And they said, can we not? Well, let's measure the wind and let's lower the fountain when the winds get too strong, so it goes over the edge of the basin where it is collected. Nobody asked them. They built it, they installed it, and they were very proud of it. So don't think that there is no innovative power in there. There is, but it's just a question of how to involve them in the first place.
Yeah, and it's also, and this reconnects us to what Roberto shared at the beginning about the participation, that we need to like engage all of the stakeholders, the right stakeholders, but we cannot make the co-creation as a mantra somehow. I think that we should leave some space for external questions if there are some. If there are not, I would also like to ask you, what are the next steps for your city towards climate neutrality? I know that some, maybe all of them, committed to become climate neutral by 2030. Maybe I'm wrong. So I don't know if you want to answer to this question, and then maybe we'll leave the space for other questions from the audience.
Maybe
I can start. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
Yes, just to make a comment on our discussion. Sometimes when we write a proposal, we are trying to, reinventing the wheel, and sometimes the solutions are already on the market, and we are asked to create solutions that are already present in the market, and instead of let's say select the top of the iceberg, so those solutions that are effective and can work for our city, we try to develop from the very beginning a solution that ideally would fit our city. And this is what sometimes happens in our innovation projects. So it's always important to have in mind that there is a lot of offer in terms of technical solution, and that is not the only bottleneck, the technical solution, and also the acceptance of this solution by the citizens. What's next? So, of course, there are several interesting and emerging technologies, and we can talk about the sensors that before Ernesto mentioned the smart lampposts. We have also tested the smart lampposts in our sharing cities project. Of course, the 5G will be disruptive. If we talk about mobility, for example, for autonomous vehicles, there is the wave of electric mobility that obviously will change the way our cars will look like in the next years. And technology will contribute in making our cities smarter, but honestly a place where it's better to live. And this is the aim of a public administration, is to create a cities where it's nice to live, when you can attract people living here in our city, and competencies and citizens and so on and so forth. So Of course, there are a lot of these technologies. If I have to mention one climate technology, is I would say nature-based solution. That it's all these, let's say, tentative of our cities to bring back greening in our cities after we kick out trees and these kind of green surfaces. So I think that green roofs and facades, but also reforestation initiative, we as municipality of Milan have these goals of planting 3 million of trees in our metropolitan area. Will help in making our cities a better place to live. Of course, there are some difficulties in this. In fact, if we talk about planting a tree in the city, it's not just a matter of making a hole and putting the tree.
No.
Under the roads, we know there are a lot of services, and there is also issues related to the maintenance of these trees. So obviously, it's not it's not a matter of just deciding that a city has to be full of trees. It's not the way it works. But I think that in that direction, we could create better cities, also adopting tactical urbanism solutions. We have tested during the COVID pandemic.
Roberto, I kindly ask you to be shorter, so we also, sorry. Because it's already 4:20.
So finding ways that are easy to implement for creating like public spaces, bike lanes, and also spaces where to have trees and plants. Sorry for being so long.
Thank you a lot. Henk, would you like to step in after Roberto?
Yeah, I won't repeat what he said, but I think that it will be an upcoming challenge when you look at the climate mission to find the balance between a citizen-driven initiative and the overall change of, for example, energy systems that our cities require, which are in need of some larger infrastructural changes, where you will need models to be able to see what the complications will be. And I know the climate mission is very much citizen-driven. I think that is good. But on the other hand, there is this challenge how to balance it out with the models that are needed to come up with solutions, because the climate mission is a very complex issue.
Thank you, Henk. Let's hear from Ernesto, and then I will also give the word to Georg.
Yeah, generally speaking, Valencia is obviously committed with becoming one of the 100 cities in Europe carbon neutral. In fact, we defined our strategy of innovation based on missions, and our first mission approved by the municipality with the agreement not only from the government but also from the other parties is the mission related to the carbon neutrality. Valencia has joined an initiative in Spain that is CTES 2030. That is an initiative for acceleration and the application of the mission in Spain, and our mayor with the other mayors of the 4 main cities in Spain joined a kind of manifesto or agreement to boost and transform the cities and boost the energy transition. Going to specifically, we are trying to check different technologies for renewable sewerage. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked, but apart from geothermal, solar, and so on, but we are trying, for example, blue energy, and we have a wave energy converter for waves of the sea. So we are trying to develop different actions with this goal of becoming carbon neutral in the near future.
Thank you, Ernesto, and thanks also to all of you for, again, accepting to be here today and to share your experience. Georg, please, you're welcome to share some extra words. Maybe we can go back to plenary.
Yeah, it's not for keeping everyone in this call, surely not. So what I heard is quite reassuring. Let's say I heard also some kind of hesitance from Henk, sort of saying, and also Ernesto, I believe, that cities are not necessarily like the business owners. I mean, that's not exactly what I meant. I think the word enablers was mentioned during this meeting. I think this is pretty much describing the role of the city administration here. You are not necessarily driving the business, but you are connecting the right people in order to make it happen, because the cities normally are also owners of the plan, of the vision, of the political ambition, which of course, looking at climate neutrality, is a long-term commitment. So it won't work if you just look into that and you know what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure, if you look into the election periods, like for 4 years or something. So this is truly a commitment which is 20, 30, 40 years. And we need to make it work from scratch, from the root level, engaging the citizens, engaging the necessary businesses, startups, banks, whoever is involved in the process. And I still think that cities, and don't be so humble, please, that you guys really play an important and pivotal role here. So this group is really a fantastic opportunity to really define and find out what is the gist of a good plan and how is it implemented, upscaled, or replicated in the best possible way. And please be reassured that I'm very much supportive of that idea with the Smart Cities Marketplace, with scale. I hope and I think that we will see each other more frequently in the future so that we can exchange some views. And also, I would be happy to hear some feedback on how it is going, also in connection with the mission on climate neutral cities. And with this, I want to stop and really thank you all for being here and quite looking forward to what's happening next. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Georg. And thank you also to all of our participants. One last chance, if anybody else wants to share some comment. Do we have someone else who wants to share, to have any question? Do we have extra? I think there was already an exchange in the chat and there was answered. No other questions? So I also take the chance to thank you all for being here today for 1 hour and a half, for being connected. I invite you to subscribe to the City Coordinators group if you haven't done it yet. Please feel free to contact me if you have any other question you would like to share, other comments or expectations or ideas. This is really meant to be a group that is built on your needs. So please take my invitation to co-shape this group as you wish. And thank you again. So I wish you all a beautiful afternoon. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.